Hey guys, what is up, my fellow Ojamans? It's CryptJ1958 here, coming at you with a deck profile. Quick trigger warning, this is going to be a deck that a lot of people don't like, and I'll probably get some hate for it, but let me just kind of explain why I built this deck. I have been slowly gathering cards for another deck that I want to build. I may have a chance of getting those cards, so if I can get them, I'm going to do a deck profile for that. But I had a few people that I had trades set up for. I spent hours going through my collection, finding all the cards they needed or wanted, and then they would just either stop responding or would just say, hey, you know what, never mind, I want to keep it, or I decided I don't want to build those cards, or that deck that you spent all that time getting. I'm just going to go a different way, and then kind of leave me hanging. And the cards that I need have only been printed once, and they're kind of expensive. So, because I've been burned by a few people trying to set up trades, I decided that I was going to build this deck as kind of a certain hand gesture that is frowned upon in civilized society, we're going to say, just to kind of be upset with people. So I'm going to get into it. Of course, we have tokens, and then the field center. Isn't that cute? So I actually built a budget version of Mystic Mine. So right now we're running just the 3 Lilith. She's actually really important because we got a new card in the Battle of the Legends. The video we just opened, we got one, and then my buddy got one, and I was able to get one. Basically, level 3 Dark Monster. She tributes herself to set a normal trap. So you just reveal 3, shuffle them up, have your opponent pick one, and it gets set, the other 2 get shuffled. Usually you're using her to get your Metaverse if you don't have one in your opening hand, or if you have one, you're getting one of your other cards, whether it be a protection card or set up the burn. We're going to move into the spells. We only run 3 monsters, that's all we need. The main card in the deck, Mystic Mine. A lot of people are very upset that this card was even made. Basically, your opponent controls more monsters than you. They can't activate any monster effects at all. Hand, graveyard, banished, field, none of it can be activated, and they can't attack. So it's basically a giant no to your opponent, but it also works in reverse. If you have more monsters, you can't do anything, and then if you both control the same amount of monsters at the end phase, it pops itself. So there are ways around it. You basically have to play board wipes, or, if I have a Lilith on my field because I miscounted and don't have a way to use her effect, and you basically go down to just one monster, then it pops it. Then we're going to get into some of the draw cards. So I'm running 3 Demise, and that's just to dig deeper into the deck. A lot of times you're setting the cards that you draw with it, or you're just using it to discard cards that you don't need, like, we also run Terraforming in here. So we're having Duality and then Terraforming, those are our search cards. So if you have a Terraforming, but it's turn 1, you don't want to use Terraforming, because the way I built this deck is your opponent doesn't know what it is game 1, and then you're siding stuff in to kind of combat them game 2 and 3. So we don't want to let them know until it's their turn. So card Demise, use that, get rid of your Terraforming off of its discard effect at the end phase, and then they still have no idea what they're playing against. Pot of Duality, reveal 3, add 1, and then you can't special summon for the rest of the turn. It doesn't come up too much, the special summon part, but being able to dig deep. It does kind of suck when, you get turn 1 and you reveal Mystic Mine and your opponent gets all upset. That's not nice. I played against one of the guys that actually kind of trolled me with one of the trades at the locals last night, and he called me some very not nice names just for playing this deck. And then one of my favorite cards, Chain Strike. I wish this was a 3. It is kind of broken, but basically you build a chain, and as long as none of the cards in the chain have the same name, you can activate it, and depending on what chain link it is, it burns you for 400 based on the chain link. So if you set it up right, it can be chain link 5 or even 6, depending on how things go, and it can burn for quite a bit. That's 2,000 or 2,400 based on if it's 5 or 6. And then sometimes it just gives you that last little push that you need to get game. So I really like that. It's kind of a fun card. Not a whole lot of people play it. You'll notice that there is no extravagance because this is as budget as possible. Extravagance is way too expensive, and there are other cards I'm playing that kind of they don't work as well, but they're a good substitute. And then we got some other protection cards in Battles of Legend, so it's a decent replacement. We're also doing the 3 Metaverse, and then 2 more draw cards. The Reckless Greed lets us dig deeper into the deck. The not being able to draw for 2 turns can hurt if you don't draw like any of your pot cards, your Pot of Greed or your Pot of Greed, Pot of Duality, or Card of Demise. So, if you don't have anything to kind of further the game state, you're just kind of sitting on it for a couple turns. But it's searchable off of Lilith, and it's just more draw power. And that's kind of our draw search. I'm going to get into the burn cards. 3 Secret Barrel, 3 Secret Blast, 3 Just Desserts. This is all kind of standard. I am main decking 2 Ring of Destruction, and I'm doing that so I have cards to side out, as well as if you build your chain right, then you can play around its restriction of not being able to activate it when your opponent has life points that are lower than the monster you target. So basically you start your chain off with this. So say they have a Inspector Border on the field at 2,000 attack, and they have 2,400 life points. You start the chain with this, activate it targeting their Inspector Border, then you can activate any of these other ones. They resolve first, but because you already targeted the monster, Ring of Destruction will still resolve, and you can win that way. So you can play around that. I've used it in a few games. I did actually win a couple just because of that. So you can play around it, and then if you do need to, it is a side-out target. And then we want to force monsters onto our opponent's field. It also helps with our burn cards. Putting more monsters on the field gives, more stuff, because all of the burn cards, based on how many cards you have on the field, whether it be cards in general or monsters, they gain more burn damage. So you end your chain with this. This is going to be the highest chain length. So you put your tokens on first, then all of your burn stuff resolves, and it burns for what's on the field when it resolves. So they have 1 monster, you flip Just Desserts, and then Ojama Trio. The tokens go, and then Just Desserts burns. So you hit them for 2,000 instead of 1,500. Or instead of 500, sorry. And that kind of rounds up kind of the main part of the deck. Now we're going to get into our protection. So we got 3 Dark Bribe. We hate back row removal. So they activate any spell or trap, you negate it. They do get to draw a card, but being able to protect your stuff is pretty good. And the new card we got out of Battles of Legends is Dark Sacrifice. And when your opponent activates a card or effect that would destroy card or cards on the field, negate the effect, then send 1 level 3 or lower dark monster from your deck to your grave. So you're not drawing into any of your Liliths, that card is live. And I've actually used it to protect my board a few times at the tournament last night. I only run it at 2 because we only main deck 3 dark monsters, so it's not live all the time. If you don't open up with it and you open up 2 Liliths, and then, maybe later one of them gets carded demised or whatever, it's going to be a dead card. So you don't want to max out on it, because we're trying to not max out on cards that become dead quickly. But it's still a really good card. So let's jump into the extra deck. So the extra deck is purely decorative until game 2 and 3. So, running Mudragon, Violet Chimera, Starving Venom, Predaplant Dragastepelia, Mega Fleet Dragon, Fortress Dragon, Duplexer Chimera just takes 2 Cybers monsters. A lot of the cards coming out recently are Cybers, so this is live pretty much all the time. And if for some reason you don't have your Violet Chimera, then you can still deal with Salamangreat boards. And then World Chalice, Guard Dragon, Almarduke. 3 just takes 3 Link monsters. So I played against somebody who had, they just kept building a board, and Mystic Mine doesn't stop passive effects. So what they did is they got Nightmare Unicorn, and then put Phoenix under it, and then Cerberus next to it. So they were getting 3 draws each turn, because it doesn't stop the passive effects. So I could have used Super Poly, got rid of all 3 of them, and then had a 3,000 beater on the field. The only reason I didn't do that is because then I would have been the only one with monsters on the field, and I really wouldn't have been able to do anything. So I was kind of hoping I would draw into one of my Ojama trios before I did that, but then I ended up burning him to death. And then a Dragon Necro Nether Soul Dragon, just 2 zombie monsters. There are quite a few zombie rogue players that are out there, and this can kind of devastate them as well. And then we're going into Cherries targets. Stalio can be pretty difficult. They can still win with Stalio if you Cherries their Sunlight Wolf. So if you're able to get both, awesome. I threw in Mermaid just because stopping Orcust is really that easy. As soon as they do their normal summon, Cherries, and you banish that, and then they have to do a lot more to get into their plays. Kagari I just threw in here because if they're using the Sky Striker engine to go into their Mermaid plays, it's a lot of fun to watch them, engage into their into Hornet Drones, play Hornet Drones, drop Cherries, and then get rid of their Kagari, and they're just stuck with the Hornet Drones, and then Galatea. Galatea is more of a last resort because they do have Longirsu, which can shuffle back 2 banished machine monsters, but it does take a lot more to get into him, so it can help. But really the Super Poly targets are, you can basically put in whatever is in the meta at the time, and then a lot of these, as we get more Super Poly targets, we'll be able to switch those out as well and make different choices for whatever is popular in the meta at the time. And then as far as our side deck, this is where it gets a little spicy. So the 3 Cherries, and this is a level 3 Dark, so more targets for our Dark Sacrifice. And then I'm also doing 2 Snow Rabbit. I use her for kind of the lingering effects. Basically, she's another way of getting rid of cards like Galatea. So if I'm not able to get into my Cherries, but I open an Ogre, and they go into Galatea, they use Galatea's effect to shuffle back a machine monster to set a spell or trap. You hit it with Ogre, and they set their spell and trap, but she's gone, and now they have to rebuild their board, and a lot of times all of their resources are gone because they need Galatea to build the resources back up. So it can be devastating. And then there's a few other cards that work really well. Pretty much anything that can activate each turn is really good for her. Even Sunlight Wolf, if you can bait out the Balinks. And there are other cards in here that we use for that as well. And those are all the monsters I use. This next card I actually got yelled at for playing is the Goddess Skuld's Oracle. Its first effect we don't really care about. It basically says if you have a fairy, you can add another or a Valkyrie card. You can add another goddess card, a certain goddess card to your hand from the deck. We don't care about that. It's the second effect we care about. Once per turn, you can look at your opponent's deck, the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck, arrange them in any order, and put them back on the deck. So we side this in game 2 and 3 so we can look at the top cards of their deck. If we see that Twin Twister, we're putting it on the bottom of those 3 and making it so it's really hard for them to draw into it. The one restriction that you got to worry about is if you do use this effect, you cannot normal summon or special summon except for fairies. So if you do have Lilith in hand, you want to normal summon Lilith first, then activate the effect. Otherwise, you can't actually summon Lilith. And then, of course, the Super Poly, just to make those live. I usually side in these 4, depending on the matchup, and then Cherries also depending on the matchup. Those are the ones I side in the most. And then if I'm going against a hand trap heavy player, I'll throw in Called by the Grave to make sure my Metaverse actually goes off. Because if Metaverse is the only thing that I can play and it gets ashed, it's devastating and it's hard to come back from that. And then I run my own back row hate if I'm going against like a Mirror or really any other back row heavy deck that might be hard to get into Mystic Mind to begin with. So I main deck that as well. And that rounds up the deck profile. Again, I just kind of built this as my passive-aggressive way of being upset with some of the people that were going to trade me the cards to build that deck and then never did. You probably will not make friends playing this deck. You will probably lose friends. I still had a little bit of fun with it. It's not even the funnest deck to really play unless you're a little bit sadistic. But it is a pretty cheap deck, and you can get some wins with it. I really only lost to a player that was maining 3 Twin Twisters, 3 Red Reboots, 3 Compulse, so they could bounce their monsters back to make Mystic Mind fizzle. And they were also running Galaxy Cyclone and Ash. So every time I tried to do anything, I was basically getting stopped. And then the other player I lost to yesterday, they actually sided in Imperial Order, and that's a really good counter to Mystic Mind because it just shuts off its effect, and there's really nothing you can do. And that's another reason why in the side deck I decided to go with Heavy Stormduster instead of Twin Twisters. With this, you will have cards that you don't mind discarding sometimes, but if you're going against, somebody who decides to throw in the Imperial Order to stop your spells, then your Twin Twisters isn't going to work anyway. So that's another reason why I kind of went with that. But that is my deck profile. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what I was playing. I'm pretty sure Mermaid's gonna get banned, and so I wanted to start building another deck for when my For Hire Orcust isn't going to be, really playable anymore. If I can get those cards, then I'll do another deck profile for that deck. I don't want to give it away just yet, but I'll, if I can, I'll get that deck profile up as soon as I can. Real quick before I go, I did want to shout out my boy Kevin, who hooked me up with a mic so I can start doing my decks or archetypes that need more support. Moving through the Yu-Gi-Oh series, we already did DM and GX and 5D, or I'm doing 5Ds soon. I'm still getting that one ready, and I also was able to do like the gameplay for the For Hire Orcust, where I was doing the narration, and it really worked pretty well. And so I do want to shout out him. It's made quite a big difference. I will be streaming as much as I can as soon as I can get a second monitor, because with just the one monitor, I have to have everything all on the same thing, all on the same screen, and I can't really do that and make it viable, I guess, to do that. So as soon as I can get a second monitor, then I'll be able to have the stream and everything on one screen and what I'm actually streaming, so my YGO Pro or Dueling Nexus or whatever I'm on at the time, on the other screen. That way I can read comments, interact with you guys, and it'll actually be a little bit more seamless. So that will be coming as soon as I'm able to get that going. And I did want to thank you guys so much. We did hit our 50 subscriber goal. I am going to be doing that dance video. I've been racking my brain for a good song to use, and I'm going to be coming up with choreography and getting it put up. It is going to be amazing. Y'all are not ready for this, I can tell you that. It's going to be epic. It's going to be emotional. It's going to be funny as hell. You're all going to love it. It's going to be great, I promise. And that being said, let's keep sharing these. Like, subscribe. I do want to hear from you guys. I like getting comments of what you like from the videos, what you would like to see. Now that I have a lot more options as far as content I can put out, I'd like suggestions. If there's certain decks you'd like to see, if I'm not able to get the cards, then I can do like a gameplay video, kind of like I did with the For Hire Orcust, but I can add the deck list at the end, and just kind of go over that if you want to do that. Just kind of let me know what you guys like to see. I know what I like, but that doesn't mean it's what you guys like, and I'd like your feedback. I'd like to have as much variety as possible. I know I get bored with the same thing over and over again, so I don't want you guys to get bored. So let me know what you guys think. Let's keep sharing, liking, subscribe if you're new. Let's keep growing the channel. My next goal is I'd like to hit 100 subscribers. I'm not sure how fast we're going to be able to do that. I would like before the end of the year. I know smaller channels like this take a little bit longer to grow because, my videos aren't going to be on the trending page because they're not getting millions and millions of views. That's totally fine, but let's shoot for 100 subs by the end of the year, and then we'll figure out something for me to do. First, I want to get that dance video out for you guys. But again, thank you guys so much for the support. This has been something I've wanted to do for a long time, and it's making me pretty happy, and I'm glad I can come, share this with you guys. But again, thank you so much, and I will see you guys later.